everybody, and welcome back to another edition of KerVAM, a Doctor Who podcast where at the moment we are, of course, talking about season 1 of Doctor Who. And this week it reached its finale. So we've got a lot of thoughts, a lot to share about this week's episode. I think it's fair to say. I feel like it's been a pretty divisive and discussed episode generally, and I sense, there's going to be some interesting opinions here. But we should take a moment first to celebrate the fact this is the 50th episode of KerVAM. I can't quite believe that we've done 50 episodes of this podcast. Of course, me, Ryan, and Charlie were on the very first one, and Bill, you joined. What was your first episode, Bill? When did you join in?
I think it was episode 12, the one we did about season 23. When that came out on standard edition. Yeah. What
a classic season, eh? What a great season to start with. And, well, maybe a comparable level episode today. But Charlie, Ryan, do you still remember recording our first podcast, like over 3 years ago now? How was that for you guys?
Feels longer than that. I didn't know it was that. It's just, boy, time really does fly, eh? Time does fly.
50 episodes down.
And who would have known? I think it was about the exact same time as well we started the podcast that Russell was announced.
Yeah, you're right. It was because I think it was like September 2021. That was only a few months after we started.
We started like April, then it was September 2021. So it was like, and now we're talking about, the finale of a Russell T Davies produced season, and we've got 12 episodes now of RTD2. Yeah,
you're right. We've got 12 whole episodes, and we've still got, a guaranteed 9, I suppose. But I'm sure there will be more afterwards. But 9 already in the can still to go, which is pretty exciting. So, it's pretty cool to celebrate 50 episodes of the podcast. But an episode that may not be in many people's top 50 Doctor Who episodes is probably Empire of Death. I don't really know where to start with it. I think, in our last podcast, we talked a lot about The Legend of Ruby Sunday. We said it was a good first part of the finale, lots of shocks, lots of excitement, but it was always going to be about how that second part played out as to kind of whether the story would hold together, be well regarded, affect the whole opinion of the season, I think, really. So, Charlie, did it conclude it well or not so much?
I might as well just start us off. No. No, it didn't. I don't hate the episode. I don't think it's the worst finale of all time. I think, in isolation, maybe a 5 out of 10. I think Empire of Death on its own is the worst episode of this season.
Okay.
On a rewatch,
worse than Space Babies.
Yeah, worse than Space Babies, worse than Devil's Cord, which I think is worse than Space Babies. I've done a rewatch of season 1, and the more I think about Empire of Death, the more I don't like it. I don't hate the Sutek stuff, but the problem is, right, in Legend of Ruby Sunday, they start with the whole Susan Triad stuff, and then they're like, right, we're going to go to the time window and look about Ruby's mum and stuff, and then they do that for 25 minutes, and then they come back to the Susan Triad stuff, and then it's the Sutek reveal, and that's the episode. They do basically the exact same thing here. They've got Sutek in the first 15 minutes killing everyone. And then they go off in the memory TARDIS. They go to Roger Ap Gwilliam 2046 to look who Ruby's mum is for some reason.
Yeah.
And then they do the whole thing with the rope and drag Sutek through the time vortex and kill him. Which, didn't they basically use the time vortex to kill Sutek the first time?
Yeah.
It's basically the same way they got rid of him in Pyramids of Mars, and look how that turned out. So I don't think it's bad to assume that Sutek is still on the TARDIS.
I
think
it's possible.
Yeah, there's just so much to tackle with the episode, but fundamentally, it's just the actual Sutek plot could have been resolved in 25 minutes, but they just go off for 20 minutes on a random side quest to find who Ruby's mum is, and obviously that reveal is a whole other we still don't know. Why can Ruby produce snow? Why couldn't she see her face in the time window? Why did the Maestro call her this creature shouldn't exist or whatever? There's so much stuff going on. What do you guys think?
I think I'm generally in the same camp as you. I've watched this episode twice. The first time around, I didn't particularly enjoy it. And then you read the social media response and you're like, whoa, people hate it. And then I watch it the second time around. And often I watch episodes the second time and I'm like, this is better. I don't actually think this is that bad. But I still kind of saw all the problems with the episode the second time around. And I was like, yeah, this really isn't very good. Bill, where are you sitting on this episode? Are you as down on it as maybe me and Charlie are?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we all know where this podcast is going, don't we? Yeah, it wasn't a great kind of conclusion to the whole season, really, because this is what, as you're saying, this is kind of what the whole season was building towards. Is like, in terms of Sutek and in terms of like Ruby's mom and all this lot, it was really building towards Empire of Death, and I just don't think it stuck to the landing, really, because I don't know. I think maybe part of the reason why the reaction to it has been so negative is because of just how good Legend of Ruby Sunday was in like setting it all up and hyping it up and getting us all really excited for Sutek's return and you know, just what was going to happen and everything, how Susan Twist was going to be resolved, and then it just Russell just did what, unfortunately, this pretty much the same thing as he did in the series 3 finale, where it just you could tell as soon as like Kate Stewart and stuff got vaporized that there was going to be a reset button at the end, and there was. And it's just, I get why, because you know it's supposed to be Doctor Who, and you're not supposed to make it too depressing and awful and kill off so many characters and then not have some kind of way of bringing them back. But it's just the fact that like everyone, I think pretty much everyone that I've seen has had the exact same thoughts, like the moments that it happened. I think it just speaks to just how much of a kind of trope of at least some of Russell's past finales it's become, and how it's like the worst possible elements of all of Russell's past finales condensed into one 55-minute long episode, and it's just.
That's the quote right there. That is the line.
It's a real shame. It's a real shame because there was just so much potential, I think, not just for the finale, but there's the season as a whole, and I'm not sure. Like, it's difficult because I enjoyed episodes 2 to 7.
Yeah,
I thought they were all pretty good. Obviously, a lot of them very experimental, very new sort of territory for the show, but I felt like for the most part they did pretty well with it. But the season got off to a bad start with Space Babies, and now it's come to a really bad conclusion with Empire of Death, and it's hard not to kind of just, even though it's unfair, it's kind of hard not to base the rest of the season on how bad especially Empire of Death was, because like it's been this thing ever since Church on Ruby Road about like who is Ruby's mum and all this lot, and in some ways I don't mind the fact that she's just a normal woman. Like, fair enough. I think Russell kind of said it was kind of a reaction to what happened to Rey and Star Wars and stuff like that, and I think that's fair enough. But it just doesn't gel with what was kind of, with all the teasers we were getting beforehand. Like, you know, like Charlie was saying about, why was she wearing that cloak then? Why was she like pointing so dramatically at that signpost, which didn't exist until this episode? I don't get it. I don't get what Russell's thinking. And then the whole defeating Sutek with a leash. I mean, why didn't he just destroy it with some laser beams? If he's supposed to be all powerful and a god, basically a god's like character, why didn't you just destroy it? I mean, unless the leash has got like special properties and nullifies his powers or something, which I don't think it has. I think it's literally just a normal leash. Then, yeah, it's just, you could tell that Russell just didn't know how to wrap that up. He wrote himself into kind of a corner. And he was like, right, I've got 10 minutes to wrap up Sutek, to wrap up Ruby's mum. Didn't really come together. I mean, it's difficult because there was stuff to like throughout the episode. It's not like it was all completely terrible and stuff. Like there were some great performances. I think Shooty Millie, especially when Ruby leaves the Doctor, were really good in that scene. Even if, again, we haven't really got to know them that well, so it's like, it doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel like I couldn't really emotionally invest in it that much because I've only known him for like 7-8 weeks. I mean, maybe you could count last Christmas as well, but even so, that's just not that long to really kind of feel like that moment was earned. So it's just a mess, and I don't really get why it's like that.
Yeah. I pretty much wholly agree with you. I think the fundamental problem at the start of this episode is killing off everybody because you know immediately that there's going to be a reset button. And I'm kind of this finale made me, why does a Doctor Who finale always have to be the end of the universe or the end of the world? Or, why do the stakes always have to be so high, so ridiculously high, that inevitably you're going to have a rubbish resolution because all you can do is show that threat by killing loads of people and then bring them all back again? Like, I just think, Moffat, for example, yes, it was the end of the universe in series 5, but actually it was quite a small story that he told in the Big Bang, whether people like it or not. It's very, the stakes are very different in that sense, I think. I know there's a bit of resetting the universe, I suppose, and maybe that isn't the best example, but I feel like we've done Russell, every single finale Russell's done is the end of the world or the end of the universe. We said it last week, it's continuing again, and he doesn't know how to wrap them up, and that's kind of quite a fundamental problem. And I think also you mentioned about the Sutek being on a leash, defeating him on a leash. I can just imagine Russell kind of starting to write this episode and going, "Oh, I love the image of a dog on a leash. The TARDIS pulling a dog on a leash. Isn't that a great idea? How can I turn that into the resolution?" Like, I can imagine that's where it come out of. Him just thinking Sutek on a leash from the TARDIS is such a great idea. I've got to use it. Rather than actually, is that a good way to defeat this all-powerful god of death that just let Ruby clip a bit of rope on him and get him yanked away? Doctor Who is silly. It is a silly sci-fi show, and there are silly things that happen in it. But I feel like it's okay sometimes to criticize the things that are just a little bit too dumb, even for you suspending your disbelief. And I feel like that's a lot of the problems with this episode. I don't know, Ryan, where are you sitting on this episode?
Okay. Here's the thing.
You love it. You think it's the best finale ever?
No, I wish, but my niece loves it though. She thinks this whole 2-part story is the best of the series. It now surpasses.
There you go then. Bow down to the kids.
Yeah.
What do our opinions matter, really? That's what Russell will think.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that she loves it. I wish I could share that sentiment because overall, it's this 2-part finale, just putting both parts together. It's a good finale, but it's not great. I wish I could say it's great, but it's not great. Mm-hmm. It's only just in the realm of it's good. That's all I can really say about it. I think it's kind of, watching both parts together, I think it's a bit poorly structured because I think the first 15 minutes of Empire of Death should have been the ending of Legend of Ruby Sunday.
100%.
That should have been the ending. And then imagine just seeing him looking out of the memory TARDIS, just seeing the decimation of the universe.
Yeah.
He was screaming in despair, fades to black, and then cut to credits, no theme music. Imagine
like the Pandorica opens.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been so amazing. And then you could have added another 20 minutes to Empire of Death to, show more Sutek, give more Sutek a time to shine, showing him just laying waste to the universe, showing how powerful he is, and then do something a bit different with the resolution of finishing him off and just rewinding back the decimation. I've noticed this with this series, and even in the 60th anniversary, whenever we have powerful godlike characters, they always seem to be defeated by the simplest of things. Toymaker defeated with a game of catch. Maestro defeated by a piano. This Sutek defeated by a leash. It's become a recurring thing throughout.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wish it was. I mean, the ingredients are there. I mean, I do like I think the first 2/3 of Empire of Death. I mean, yes, I wish the 15 minutes, first 15 minutes could have been the conclusion.
Yeah.
But even then, given what we got, the first 2/3 of it are pretty solid. It's when the moment she drops the time window and puts the leash on Sutek, that's the moment for me. That's the moment where it does start going haywire.
Yeah.
The Empire, that's where it kind of goes off the rails a bit, and I'm just a bit like, what? Why? It just I don't know. I was kind of it literally reminded me a lot of Last of the Time Lords. Again, it just felt like that all over again. And
it's the best finale, though. What are you talking about?
it's also the same situation. First 2/3 pretty solid. Last third just goes off the rails completely, and I'm just like, have you not learned from that? From 2007.
I know. And what do you feel about the death plus death equals life equation?
How does that even work? Death to death means like, how does that?
I know. Exactly.
I mean, I appreciate Shooty's giving it his all in that moment, and I applaud him for that.
And it's good to see the Doctor save the day, to be fair, because we haven't seen very much of that in this season. He really is the guy who saves it.
Yes, and I will give that is definitely a bonus, but death to death, how does that even work? It kind of broke my brain a little bit watching that, to be honest. And as for the whole thing with Ruby's mum, I don't mind it. It's an odd person, and even Russell himself has mentioned that this was done as a response to how Rey was treated in the sequel trilogy, because he. And I know this is going to be a controversial opinion. I really like The Last Jedi. I'm sorry, but I really like that movie. I think, and I completely agree, Rey should have come from nothing and then elevate to greatness, rather than what they did with the dumpster fire that was Rise of Skywalker, where they just retconned her to be a Palpatine and all that. And I'm happy they didn't do that with Ruby. Like, she's not the daughter of a god, or she's not the daughter of Sutek or Rassilon or anything like that. So I appreciate that angle. But man, did the build up to it not gel with that at all.
That's the problem. And
I've listed all these things, like all the plot holes. I'm sure you mentioned some of them, but I've got the list here. Why does it snow across time and space around Ruby for some reason? Why is there this secret song deep in her soul? There's Carol the Bells.
And the Carol the Bells keeps playing for no reason.
And why does the memory keep changing for the Doctor? Why does it not reveal things like that lamppost? Like, surely he was there on Ruby Road in the Christmas special. Surely he could have noticed it for himself.
We've seen in the past that he notices everything when he's in a place. And we see him turn around to go back into the TARDIS, and the lamppost is literally right there, supposedly. And so that's nonsense.
Yeah, absolute nonsense. Like, why does Ruby's mum look like a Sith? Just looks like a Sith with the cloak and everything. In that, why?
Yeah, makes no sense.
Yeah, Russell keeps saying like, "Oh, time shrouded her," but come on, that's just absolute nonsense. Why does the time window TV footage just glitch out and fast forwards for no reason when they try to look at her? Why is she shadowed, as they said in part 1? And why could Unit find her mum so quickly like that at the end, when the Doctor or even Davina McCall didn't do that? I mean, man, this episode kind of makes Davina McCall look a little bit bad, because it's like, surely how could, if her mum is ordinary and works for the NHS, surely they would have her DNA on record. Surely they would have matched it with Ruby. I mean, I work for the NHS, and even I know all this. Like, surely, and when I said, surely the Doctor could have found that out with the TARDIS. Surely he could use all technology.
And why in Boom does the ambulance not recognise Ruby?
Exactly.
When his sample was clearly stored, like futuristic computer, surely that should pick it up.
Yeah, and also why would Maestro and Sutek both be scared of Ruby and let her live? If she's already surely they killed her just like that. It's those were all the things I've noticed, and it's like I don't mind the resolution. I think the resolution with her mum being Audrey and her Ruby being Audrey is great. I love that. Okay. I just wish the build-up was different. The build-up just it doesn't match. It doesn't gel at all. And
that's the problem.
It just feels like all that build-up was there just so it can get people hyped up. And funnily enough, I rewatched The Last Jedi again because of the way he said. I rewatched The Last Jedi again and The Force Awakens, and this whole build-up with Rey, even that was done more nuanced. There wasn't really that much there. There wasn't that. It wasn't. I know people like hyped up. There was so much build-up. There wasn't really that much build-up to like a parentage until that. But when they did Rise of Skywalker, well, we all know what happened there. They completely just. Well, I won't go into that, but that was so nuanced in how they did that. It just feels like surely they could have done the same here with Ruby, but they didn't. They just hyped it up for no reason. And even when the resolution is great, the build up to it is just wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this leans into one of the really interesting quotes that we heard from Russell from last week's Doctor Who Unleashed that seems to have done the rounds again this week more so, where he talked about basically designing the show around the fan reaction and people theorizing about it on Twitter. And I think that's really dumb. Like, you don't design a show and like a mystery within a show to kind of almost trick your fans and, you know, kind of just get them all hyped up for ultimately no reason, because Ruby is something completely normal. And I know that in the episode, the Doctor explains, you know, the kind of big mystery of it all was the fact that you created it to be some big thing. And it almost feels like that's what Russell's saying to the fans. It's like, obviously it wasn't anything a big deal. You guys just made it such a big deal because you're getting all hyped about it. And it's like, well, Russell, that's literally how you wrote it, to be like that, to cause that to happen. Like, as fans, obviously we're going to theorize about it. And when you throw all those breadcrumbs in there and keep telling us how mysterious it is, like, that's going to happen. And that just feels like really cheap, I think, by him. As you say, Ryan, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with Ruby having a normal family. But with all that stuff you've listed off there, it just doesn't make sense. It feels like there's been just a few too many things thrown in there to create a mystery that doesn't actually exist. And no matter what the episode tries to explain about, you know, the mystery is just the mystery. Like, this doesn't mean anything. I still don't believe all-powerful Sutek should care that much about this tiny individual mystery. It just seems that, I don't know, that seems just a stretch too far for me, personally.
Yeah, Maestro, and even Maestro, that would be something beneath them, and Sutek especially, that beneath him. And it's interesting because Ryan Johnson, who did Last Jedi, he said an interesting thing. Backstory and mystery does not equal character. It's true.
Yeah. And that's what Ruby is.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I like Ruby's personality and I really like Millie Gibson and I love her dynamic with Shooty. I mean, we'll dive more into this when we do our season retrospective, but it's like, but it's kind of like what happened with Rey to some extent in the sequel trilogy to Last Jedi. It's like, I love Rey as a character. Daisy Ridley's amazing, but the way they kind of put this stuff around it, it's like, are you trying to make the mystery around her more important than the character? It's like, that should not happen. And there's a danger to having mystery be more important, overtaking the characterization. And this happened before with Doctor Who. Clara. What happened with Clara in Series 7B? When the proper Clara was introduced in Bells of St. John, from Bells of St. John until Name of the Doctor, there wasn't really much to Clara. It's like the mystery was more important than the character, and I wasn't really that invested in her. It wasn't until Day of the Doctor onwards they start to make her a proper character, and so it's like, I hope it's the same situation with Ruby. Please.
But then we got her leaving scene, even though she's not leaving, and that was which is a bit of a weird one. You said, I think, Bill, you said that scene didn't feel particularly earned, and like it's also not earned because we literally know she's coming back in the next series. So I'm kind of stuck between this thought of, because Russell explains the whole idea of, okay, you just found out who your parents are, you probably want a bit of time to deal with that. Like, I get that makes sense. Okay, we're going to part with Ruby for a little bit for that reason, but doing this kind of big emotional goodbye scene when we know that she's going to come back midway through next season, and probably do a Martha and be in 3 or 4 episodes, especially when we just doesn't feel like we've had enough of the 2 of them together. I don't know how earned that scene really felt. I don't know, Charlie, where are you sitting on the whole sort of Ruby mystery, the mother, that scene, all of that side of things?
I just think, I don't know, Russell, if you're watching this, people are calling the Star Wars sequels more intelligent and nuanced than what you've done. That's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think, like you were saying, like you summed it up really well, Ryan. I don't hate Ruby's mum being normal. I think that's fine. But the way it was presented, it should have been more just Ruby has genuine character moments and talks about the Doctor, and she says like, "I want to know who my real mum is." That's fine. But like all the snow and the song, we had a build up for a completely different payoff. Not that the payoff we got was bad, but this is a completely different thing. Like, I think Ruby being the daughter of the trickster would be a better payoff for the build-up that we got, to be honest.
There you go.
I just think it should have been a bit more toned down, to be honest. And Ruby in general, like, again, Millie Gibson's great, Shooty's great, and their dynamic when they're together is good, they have a lot of chemistry. It's fun to watch. But they're together for 3 episodes before the finale.
Yeah,
literally.
Exactly.
Episodes 1, 2, 3, they're together a lot, and then we've got a Doctor Light story. They're on some screens for a bit, and it's mainly Lindy who's the main character, and then Rogue. They're just doing completely different plots. It's basically the equivalent of Martha leaving after the Dalek 2-parter in series 3.
Yeah, and you feel like
at that point in the series they've had the same amount of screen time together, roughly. That's insane. And we're supposed to be really sad when they've had this little time together. I'm not too happy with that. I just think whatever Ruby is in season 2, because we don't know which episode she's in exactly when she comes back. I just want her to have more of a character, to be honest, because it's like we're already over halfway through Millie Gibson's total time on Doctor Who, probably. I can't see her being in season 3. I think it'll be very much Verida and Millie in season 2, and then Verida in season 3. That's what it'll be, probably. If season 3 is commissioned, which is a whole other conversation.
Let's hope so. But
I think it will.
Just don't look at the reaction to this episode. Just look at how much money they made off the cinema screening, and then they'll be happy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Speaking of seeing it in cinema, it didn't change much.
Okay.
It's not. I know some people who are like, "Oh, seeing it in cinema is amazing," and they, generally speaking, have a more positive reaction to it. Yeah. While it was cool, I think the novelty had worn off by the end of Legend of Ruby Sunday, which was good anyway.
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Whatever. Let's get to the finale.
I mean, was it a good vibe after the episode, or were people a bit down on it? What was your experience?
It was quite good. Like, some people were saying, like, it was mainly the conversation was about the Ruby's mum reveal. Like, no one was talking about Sutek.
Interesting.
And people were talking as well. This is a nice segue into another big part of the episode, the end, with Mrs. Flood in Romana's get-up.
Yes, having been in Clara's last week. Yeah.
That was great, honestly. I quite like this because Russell's not like saying this is the main plot arc and you should follow this constantly. He's just kind of, at the end of a season or something, he'll just sort of throw in a random thing like that, and I can see another thing like this in season 2, or maybe in the Christmas special like next year or something. And then we finally get payoff in like Shooty's last episode, or even beyond. Like this could go into 16th Doctor territory. We have no idea. But I quite like it. It's not as serious a plot arc as Ruby's mum, so I kind of don't care if it's nothing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because like from literally the first second of Shooty's first proper episode, the story arc is there. Like, we established that arc immediately, and it's so forced through this whole season, and then with this resolution we get. So,
yeah, and it's funny, as I mentioned, the whole how backstory, mystery, and stoic shouldn't supersede characterization. I mean, in comparison, if you look at some of Moffat's, the best of Moffat's series, like Series 5 and all of Capaldi's era for me, all characterization mattered more than whatever story arcs were going on. Like Series 5, yes, it deals with, cracks in time, the destruction of the TARDIS, end of the universe, but really it's all about the Doctor, Amy, and to an extent Rory. That's what Series 5 was about. And Series 8, yes, there was the whole, the return of, the Master and the Cybermen, dealing with afterlife and all that. But really, it's all about the Doctor rediscovering himself and learning that in the end that he's not a monster. Series 9, it continued that with the Doctor and Clara's relationship and how much and like how far would you go to save the one you love and all that with Series 9, which for me was more important than the hybrid, which to me wasn't really much of a story arc anyway.
But that wasn't really the point, was it? In the end, the idea was the hybrid really was the Doctor and Clara.
Yeah, it was all about the Doctor and Clara's relationship, and Series 10, again, doesn't really matter. It's really about the relationship between the Doctor, Bill Potts, Nardole to some extent, and even the Master. That's really Series 10 was about, and that's what I feel like this should have done, characterization over story arc and all that. And I feel like that's what he should have done, and even then he kind of had some of that in his early runs to a certain extent. I mean, Series 4, you look at Series 4, yes, there was a lot going on. Rosa's returning and, the missing planet. But they were kind of a bit more nuanced, I felt. It was really about the building of the Doctor and Donna's relationship. And it was important because it ultimately culminated in the Doctor Donna and the ultimate victory and then ultimate tragedy that followed at the end of that. So it's like Russell can do it, but it's just for some reason he kind of, instead of doing Series 4, he was also doing Series 3 with it's weird, and I don't know what went wrong here. And I've done my ranking for the finales. I've looked back at all the finales after I took like an hour to kind of process all the finales, and I think this is where I land. If you want me to go into it,
give us a little hint of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Where do you want me to start? Best to worst or worst to best?
Worst to best.
I'm assuming that Empire of Death is down with the worst. So hit us.
It's near the bottom. It's a bit interesting. Last place is, of course, Series 11, Battle of Ranskorav Kolos.
Yeah. Then Timeless Children, I'm guessing.
Nope, it's actually Survivors of the Flux and the Vanquishers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Both of them, because in a way, they're basically a two-part finale in of themselves, and I really don't like it. Then it's The Timeless Children at number 12. Then it's Wedding of River Song.
Yeah.
Then it's Hellbent.
I disagree with you, but it's okay. I accept it.
This is the point. For me, Hellbent onwards is where it's no longer terrible. I mean,
but you put Hellbent lower than Last of the Time Lords, and I could never do that.
The thing is with
Wait till you hear where I'm placing Hellbent, Elliot.
Oh,
I've got mine here as well.
We're going to have to do a podcast just about Hellbent where you three spend an hour slagging it off and I try and defend it.
The thing is with Hellbent, it's a weird one because there are moments in Hellbent that I absolutely love and adore, but there are moments in it that drive me a little bit crazy, although not as crazy as some other stuff, but as the
sorry, carry on.
Ones. But anyway, number 9, Name of the Doctor. It's okay, but I just don't feel like there's much of a plot to Name of the Doctor.
Yeah, I don't particularly love it. I agree.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Then it's this 2-part finale at number 8. Then it's this.
Yeah.
Then it's Series 3.
Yeah, there we go.
I think Series 3 has the 3-part finale. Series 3 has higher highs than this, and that's why I put it a little bit above this recent 2-part finale. Then it's Army of Ghosts and Doomsday at number 6. And then we get to the top 5. At number 5, Dark Water, Death in Heaven. I think it's a really solid finale. Then 4th place, it's Series 1, Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways at number 4.
Oh, I'd put that higher.
Number 3 is Pandorica Opens and the Big Bang.
Okay.
Really like that story. I think that's a really solid finale.
I really like the Series 5 finale.
And the top 2 are really close. They're really close for me, these top 2. Number 2, Stolen Earth and Journey's End.
I'm surprised it's so high. I'd put episode 1 high. I'm not so sure about the second part.
I really enjoyed both parts. I think they're amazing.
Fair enough.
World Enough and Time and the Doctor Falls is my number 1.
Of course, obviously, it's got to be.
And I think I rewatched some of that after this 2-part finale, just to feel something again.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I know. Yeah. It's a really helpful ranking. I think it's helpful to kind of frame this finale in amongst all the others, and I guess it reminds us firstly that the Chibnall era was really not very good. And I don't know, Charlie or Bill, would you put this finale lower than any Chibnall era finales?
No, not quite. I was thinking about Hellbent. I actually should I give you my ranking? Why not? Should we just go around the room?
Yeah.
All right. Battle of Rantagrav Kolos vanquishes instantly. Hellbent, Timeless Children.
Oh dear, fair enough.
I don't hate Ascension of the Sidemen. I think Ascension of the Sidemen's solid, and I consider it a 2-parter, whereas I don't consider Hellbent, Heaven Sent Hellbent, a 2-parter, because it's not really they've got similar sounding titles, and some people think that, and it's a series of mostly 2-parters, but it's not a 2-parter. Mostly because if it is a 2-parter, that means I'm ranking Heaven Sent way down there, and I don't want to do that. Heaven Sent's my favourite time.
Exactly.
Anyway, so in 11th is Timeless Children. 10th is Legend of Ruby Sunday, Empire of Death.
Yeah.
9th is Wedding of River Song. 8th is Name of the Doctor. 7th, Last of the Time Lords.
Yeah.
6th, Dark Water, Death in Heaven. 5th, Army of Ghosts, Doomsday.
Okay.
I think it's quite underrated.
Fair enough.
4th, this is where it gets hard. I don't know. Probably Series 5 finale. Pandora Crocus, Big Bang. 3rd, this is tough. 3rd, I guess, is Stolen Earth, Journey's End. 2nd is Bad Wolf, Parting of the Ways. 1st is World Enough and Time, Doctor Falls.
Yeah.
Top 3 is very easy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm a bit surprised that you put Wedding of River Song above this finale. Because Wedding of River Song is as bad as the moments are in this 2-part finale. The moments in Wedding of River Song just drive me absolutely nuts. I think it's Moffat's worst finale.
I think it's better than this. I would agree. I think it's better than this. I don't know. I don't hate some of the resolutions in Wedding River Song as much as I dislike them in this, and I think that's the difference.
I think it's still a mess. But
it's 100% a mess, and it needs another hour's runtime at least to resolve that whole season, whole 2 series. But I still think that I prefer some of the conclusions of it to.
I still can't get over the whole android duplicate, shapeshifting android was the solution all along.
It's not that bad, a doctor inside the Tesselector. It's a great idea.
It's basically Androids of Tara.
Androids of Tara is a classic.
Yeah.
I love Androids of Tara, but man, the shapeshifting robot thing, I don't know. Series 6 frustrates me because that first half was. Well, the first half of the story arc is really good, but the last half of Let's Kill Hitler and the Wedding of River Song are just an absolute mess, and it just kind of betrayed the potential of that. But it just felt like he completely blew the resolution with Wedding of River Song. There are a few good moments, like the Brigadier's mentioning passing. I thought was really well done, but man, I feel like I think Series 6 just kind of frustrated me a little bit, but
I really like the ambition of Series 6, but anyway, this isn't a Series 6 podcast. We'll do a Series 6 podcast. I feel like there's a Hellbent podcast coming up. There's a Series 6 podcast coming up. I'm sure we can find another one by the end of this podcast. Bill, do you want to chime in at all with any, it doesn't have to be a whole ranking, but any general sort of, opinions on finales?
I mean, I think I might need more time to think about a general ranking, but
that is absolutely fine.
I might put this quite low.
I
think I'm going to put this. I would agree. Battle of Ranskov Carlos is the worst one.
Yep.
So that's definitely. I mean, how can you really get worse than that? That's not even a finale, really.
It's not a finale.
Yeah. I think Empire of Death might be like. I don't know. It might be because it aired 2 days ago and it's Regency. It's like recency bias, and I'm just really not a fan of it a minute. But I might put it at like 11th or 12th place.
It's fair enough. I think right now I would rather controversial opinion. I'd rather go and watch The Timeless Children than watch Empire of Death again.
Whoa!
Because I generally don't hate The Timeless Children anyway, but I think I would rather, thinking about it right now, I'd rather go and watch that, which I think says it all. So, well, let's tackle a few of the better parts of this episode, because I feel like we've done 45 minutes of dumping on this episode. So we've got to find some good stuff to say. And I'm going to start, Charlie, with the scene with the kind woman. Now, this is a scene that very much doesn't need to be in this episode. There's a spoon, but you could find another way to get the Doctor a spoon. He could just find one in the TARDIS. It's not needed to do anything. But it more just frames the kind of whole episode and the impact on the universe and on real people that this is having. And I think it's a fantastically strong scene. It's one of the best scenes of the episode. What do you think? Do you think it was worth? Because I think in Doctor Who Magazine they mentioned that there was a real debate about whether they kept this scene in or not. It was talked about a lot that they might just not bother because they don't need it. Do you think it was worth it?
Absolutely. I think it was a great scene. At first, I was sort of like, what's even happening here? What is this planet? Why is the Doctor it's very much just, it doesn't explain why the Doctor's here. He just is.
Yes.
And but it was great, honestly. Like you were saying, it just sort of frames the whole episode. It just gives us an actual person, and we see what it's done to them, and it's not just trillions of people have died. Most of the universe is dead, and I think we need some sort of person to actually show that this is actually a bad thing. It's not just numbers. I think when you contrasted this with I know we're trying not to bring other eras into it, but Flux. Flux is just, like the vast majority of the universe is dead, but we don't really care, and we're not really showing any of that. That's what it is. But this actually, most of the universe is dead. That has consequences. People are forgetting things. The very few people who are remaining literally can't remember anything. This woman thought that her child was still alive, and then realised she's not even alive, is she? It's a big deal, and it's quite an emotional scene, really. Like, Ncuti was amazing in it, as was Sean Clifford. It was great. I know everyone was speculating that she was going to be Ruby's mum.
Yeah, it did feel like it during the scene. I was like, come on, there's a mother and a baby. Like, you're just teasing us, Russell. But obviously that was the idea to an extent.
Yeah. Honestly, that would have made more sense.
Ultimately,
given what we had to build up. But we've done talking about that. Anyway, that was a really good scene. And other positives, Gabriel Wolfe.
Absolutely.
He delivers. He always delivers.
Absolutely.
You can't really fault him. Ncuti and Millie were both great. I guess there's some good visuals. It looks
we got
nice.
to see some Pyramids of Mars clips in the episode because Sutek also has a Doctor Who DVD collection, much like Davros and other villains.
Of course, that was
gets
actually
to enjoy it all.
Quite a nice scene where Ruby's looking at the screen with the Fourth Doctor and Sarah and asking who they are. That was quite nice. But even the memory TARDIS was saying, go and watch Pyramids of Mars is better.
Well, that's the problem. That is the problem. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
So it's like, if I was to rewatch this episode, I'll just think, oh, hang on, I can watch Pyramids of Mars for a good Sutek story.
Yeah, it'd be even better. Exactly. But I did like the sort of vague connections to 73 Yards as well. I was kind of hoping that was going to be developed a little bit more. It felt like we were teetering on the edge of some big, reveal about, 73 yards having actually happened or having some real connection to what was going on, apart from just here's Roger William and 73 yards is this mysterious distance where weird stuff happens. I felt like that was the moment where you could do almost a kind of Bad Wolf / long game type situation where you really massively tie in something from earlier in the series and go, this is critical. And in some ways they do, because you have it's the DNA testing that Roderick William puts in place is what solves the plot essentially. And I like that, but I almost feel like it would have been better if they'd seeded that into that episode. Why didn't we see that little extra bit of the scene, him saying that? Why couldn't that have played out in 73 yards? And then we could have gone, that's actually going to connect up and that's going to solve it all. I don't know. I feel like that could have just improved it, but I still thought it was nice to have that connection to that episode we've already seen.
Yeah. I'll also mention, I really do like how they explained the remembered TARDIS. I liked how it came about, and it kind of like the suggestion that it would go off and find the other doctors and companions and help them out in the same way that it did with Dr. Ruby. And I will say Bonnie Langford was good as Mel.
I was going to say, I thought Bonnie Langford was really good, and it was great to have her as a main character really for this whole episode.
I thought she did a really good job, and the makeup I think is really good on the harbingers of Sutek. I think the skull effect is really well done. I don't mind the explanation that Sutek has been hiding on the TARDIS and kind of slowly transforming into a god during that time. They kind of explained.
I don't love it, but
he basically explained the different form of Sutek.
That's true.
That was his original form, and that there's so many years of traveling through the time vortex, being on board the TARDIS. It slowly transformed Sutek into a godlike being, where it wasn't original because he was a siren, and so I like that explanation and why he now is this godlike Titan form. And I know some people are still ragging on the design. I don't mind the new godlike Titan design of Sutek. I think it looks cool. I just wish his eyes were green. I just wish, because I looked at and it had him with green eyes. And I'm just like, that's perfect. Why couldn't you have had that in? And especially when he's using that same effect again on the Doctor. Lasering him. I'm like, you could have had his eyes green. That's my only criticism. But otherwise, I think the new design is cool, and there's definitely some good moments. And as I said, I think the only section, I think most of it is actually good. I think it's just this section where the moment they attach the leash on Sutek to the whole revelation about Ruby is finished, and up until the point where she's just about to see her mother. That section in the middle is really bad. All the other stuff beforehand and after that is good. I
think the problem with that is that little section you say is the fundamental resolution to the whole season and every single part of it. Which is why we've ragged on this episode so much. But I do agree with you that the majority of this episode is really good. As you say, those scenes at the end, the actual dealing with who Ruby's mother is, and her meeting her mother for the first time, and that whole the dynamic and the way that plays out, I think is really, really good, really well performed. They did a great job casting the mother. You really believe she's Ruby's mother. It's not some random person. I think that was all really well done.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that in season 2 and all the episodes of Ruby, we get to see her talking with both her mums come into fray, and that she's looking to advice from both of them. And I hope there's more of that, because I think they have because we see her birth mum has kind of become part of the family now, and I would like to see a lot more of that with season 2. Again, just more characterization, a bit more family drama with Ruby. Her mothers for advice. That would be really well done. I don't know how, but I'm a bit scared of how they could tackle it, since that we're only going to get 9 episodes in season 2, and the Christmas special. There's not going to be any companions. It's basically Nicola Cortland, who, don't get me wrong, brilliant, amazing. It's only going to be for 1 episode, and then we don't know how many episodes Ruby and Barra DeSethu's companion is going to be in. It's going to be, I'm as I said, there is mostly good stuff. Again, like Last of the Time Lords, there is mostly good stuff in there. It's just everything, any screen time given to the resolution is bad. All the resolutions, the bad stuff. And again, it's really annoying because, again, there is really good stuff in there. It's a shame.
Yeah, it's a real... That's it. It feels like a letdown, I think, ultimately. That can't be denied. And, we all really wanted and hoped that Russell would pull off a great episode. He's been away from Doctor Who for nearly 15 years to think about how to write finales better, and all that kind of thing. I mean, what do we know? Ultimately, we're just a bunch of fans who don't know about how to write anything. But also, we're here to have an opinion and criticize when we feel it's justified. And I think it's fair enough with this episode because there is a lot of problems with it and a lot of disappointments with it. And Bill, where do you think this leaves us kind of heading into that next season? As Ryan said, we're potentially not going to get huge amounts of time with the different companions and characters and things because of, the nature of the amount of episodes left and it being split. And, the fact we've only got 8 episodes plus Christmas. Those have already been filmed, so the sort of reaction to season 1 will have played no impact on what season 2 is like, which I'm never a great fan of when a show's filmed like that and you can't take on board any audience feedback in what you then do. That won't impact until season 3. So what do you kind of see the impact being for the next season?
I think the most likely thing is we're probably going to have just Ncuti and Verada Sefru for the first half of season 2, say first 3 or 4 episodes, and it will just be about introducing her new companion. And I mean, hopefully we get more of kind of that than we did with Ruby, because again, this is kind of an issue I've had for this season. Is it's like, I get why Russell's not done it, because we've had so many traditional companion introductions by this point that, it's just it's completely fair enough that he decided to just kind of not do that and just do something else. But I think we do actually kind of need something still a bit like it, because I think it just helps to establish that dynamic and that stuff. As much as Ncuti and Millie have had great chemistry together, their characters needed just that time to really get to know each other and for us to see the Doctor's world through Ruby's eyes and everything. And I just want that to kind of at least come back into it a little bit with season 2. And then I'm guessing that, for the remainder of that season, that then it will be the 3 of them. It'll be Ncuti, Millie and Verada, and it'll be building up some kind of, well, obviously cliffhanger with Mrs. Flood.
Yeah, probably.
Who knows who she is?
The god of stories, as people like to think.
Yeah, it's got
or
to
Romana.
be. I think it might be. Well, I would say the Rani, but the rights issues around that character's like. I don't think that's going to be possible. So I think. Maybe Russell really is going to do something with this Susan stuff, and he's going to have Mrs. Flood.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that.
Evil Susan. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because what do you think about that fake out, Bill? That it felt like the whole Susan's Foreman stuff was building to ultimately absolutely nothing. Like, do you think that it has just built to nothing, or do you think that is going to play into season 2?
Well, I hope it does, because it just seems really weird to just kind of just talk about it, especially in last week's episode, and then just not to follow up with it. I mean, I don't know about you, but I kind of felt like when Ncuti and Millie were saying goodbye to each other and everything, and it was all very much because Ruby has found her birth parents now, basically, and it's going to go and try to get to know them and everything. I imagined that the Doctor would kind of see Ruby basically with her kind of new family now, as it were, her new extended family, and kind of then decide, oh, do you know what? I think I'm ready to have a family again, and then we get some kind of shot at the end with Susan or something, or at least it's some kind of like, I'm going to go find my granddaughter.
Yeah, because and there was a little hint at that, I feel like, in the dialogue where he says, maybe I should go and find her again. Sort of, I don't know, that dialogue just gave me a little vibe that he was thinking about it. And the way he said, I can talk more openly about family than ever before and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I really do want something, just some kind of payoff of that would be great. I mean, it would be great to see Caroline Ford back. I don't, but as I say, I don't know, because it depends on what kind of relation it has to the Mrs. Flood stuff, and how that's going to tie into everything. But yeah, I think definitely Mrs. Flood will be the next big bad, I suppose, of the next season. Somehow, whatever she's going to be.
I agree.
But yeah, I think we have to take this kind of lesson from this season of like not getting too invested in these mysteries, because the payoff and the kind of
will
the
probably
teasing,
be bad.
Yeah, the payoff and the teasing are two very different things. Like the teasing was great throughout this season, but then the payoff was just for something completely else. I mean, it worked, like in terms of it made sense for Ruby's character and stuff, but it's just it just didn't make sense. And I think Russell kind of I get why he wants to do it in terms of like generating social media buzz and stuff like that, because that's obviously very important these days and stuff. But it just feels like a real missed opportunity for something that could have been really interesting. And I just really hope that we can get into season 2 and not be too caught up in like who is Mrs. Flood going to turn out to be. Like, what is the connection going to be with Radha Sefu's companion to heroine Boom, stuff like that? Because I bet that's going to play something into it as well. So, yeah, I just hope that any mysteries that we have from this point onwards, that, you know, if Russell starts doing his thing again of like teasing, hyping it up every
we just got to ignore him.
Yeah.
Russell is just a hype merchant. He doesn't, he just makes it all up basically to try and get excitement, and it's meaningless.
And it's weird. And I hope that he doesn't do this thing even with like say interviews or do like trailers to kind of misdirect us with information. I hope he doesn't do that in future, because I've seen that happen with certain franchises or series that they try to do this misdirection and it doesn't really pay off, to try and mislead and it doesn't really happen. An example of this, have any of you checked out The Last of Us, the video game series or TV show? Am I allowed to say anything about the second game, or
I mean, I have played it. I don't really know anything about it, but we can give a spoiler warning and then you can go for it.
Okay, brief spoiler warning. I know this is going to be adapted for season 2 onwards into a TV show, so spoiler alerts for there. Just baby spoilers. One of the main characters from the first game, Joel, he dies in the second game. The beginning of the second game, he gets killed off, and in the trailers, they try to do a bit of a misdirect to say like, he is going to be a part of it. He's in the action.
Right.
It was actually not the case, and it was kind of rearranged to make it look as though he was there when it's not. And of course, people were really upset. They felt a bit misled by that. And even the creator of that admitted that maybe that was a mistake. That's
interesting.
And he said that the reason why he did is because people kind of cottoned on that perhaps Joel was going to get killed off, and so he wanted to do something that would kind of misdirect them. And he felt like in retrospect that probably wasn't the best idea. And so I'm hoping Russell kind of takes this to a certain extent when plotting out story arcs, try not to build too much attention to it or misdirect, because you're going to
just let it play out normally. Let the episodes play out on screen, and we'll make our conclusions rather than doing the hype on the side. I mean, I know we've said kind of the problem to some extent is what happened in the actual episodes with this season. I think that is as much a problem as anything else. But also encouraging that hype on the outside, I think, has just kind of caused this problem. And as you said, Bill, let's hope that as much as Mrs. Flood might be the main person of the next season, let's not spend every episode teasing it so much. I feel like the kind of light-hearted way they've done it so far works quite well, because it's just a bit of fun. Like, I thought the scene was brilliant of her on the rooftop at the end of the episode. It was just so funny and random, and like it doesn't give you any real clues to who it is or anything. Like, it's just fun and silly and what Doctor Who should be. And I think that's great, as opposed to real proper teasing mysteries that will become nothing. Like yes, Mrs. Flood is very mysterious, but I almost feel like it wouldn't matter at the moment if she's just a new villain. Like, I don't feel like I'd be really disappointed in that. Whereas I just feel the way that the Ruby storyline played out just didn't really give us the ultimate conclusion we wanted, which is the real problem.
Yeah, I think even though she's only been in a few scenes, it's clear Anita Dobson's having a blast with this.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Having so much fun. And to me, that's always a joy to see, because I do think she is a good actress, and just seeing her just relishing as part of how small the scenes have been so far, it's clear that she's having a lot of fun with this. And I hope we get to see more of that in next season, because I think as long as they don't try and build up mystery around her, just let her have a chance to shine on her own, I think we could be something good. I keep having the feeling she's not going to be a villain. I keep having the feeling that she's going to be sort of some force for good, but not in a purely good sense. I think she's sort
of an anti-hero.
Yeah, kind of an anti, someone who's neutral, neither good nor bad, just doing their own thing.
Interesting. Well, we'll I'm sure find out a lot more in season 2 as to what that's going to bring. So before we bring this to an end, let's just quickly give our ratings for this. I think 2-part. Let's do the whole thing as a whole. We'll come to you first, Charlie. What would you rate this 2-parter out of 10?
5.
Wow, and that is worst of the series.
Yeah, I think I do think it's got worse as I've thought about it more. Like, on first watch, I really didn't hate it that much. And I still don't, despise it. But the more, even just thinking about it, like, watching it a second time didn't help. But even just thinking about it, I like this less and less with each passing hour. I don't want to watch it a third time because I feel like it'll just sink lower. But 5 out of 10, even though the first part is great in isolation, it's a 2-parter. It's not... It's setting up something that ultimately just falls flat in the second half. It's not the worst finale of all time, but, Doctor Who finales are famously sometimes really quite bad. So, let's just hope the next finale is better. Because,
Exactly.
5 out of 10.
Yep, fair enough. We can certainly hope for better in the next series. Well, I really hope. Bill, what would you give it out of 10?
It kind of gives the wrong impression if I were to give the whole 2-parter a ranking, because I give the whole film a 9 out of 10, but only because of episode 7 and how great that was. If you ask me just Empire of Death, I'd say 6.5. It's kind of it's
really not great.
I would slightly take it over Space Babies, but it's really very close between the two of them for the worst of this season, I would say.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I would probably choose Empire of Death over Space Babies to watch, I think. But probably not over any other episode of the season, I don't think. Ryan, what's your ranking out of 10?
Oh, this was tricky. I had some time to think. I think it's a 7 out of 10, a soft 7 out of 10. As I said at the beginning, it's good, it's just not great, and that's because of the resolutions and how they ended up. I think it's definitely better than Space Babies. I said at the beginning, I thought when we started looking at the series, I thought Space Babies is going to be the worst, and it still is. It is above that. I think it's slightly above Church on Ruby Road, only slightly, but I still think episodes 2 to 6, I would think, are stronger than they. I think from Devil's Court to Rogue, I think they're much stronger stories than this one, and it's a shame because I actually was hoping this would be the best of the series, and the ending of part 1 did make me think, oh, could this be the best of the series? And it didn't happen, and it's a shame. But 7 out of 10 is bad, but it could have been so much better.
Yeah, that's it. It could have been so much better. I think that's, the real conclusion for this all. And it's a real shame. I think I'd give it a 6 out of 10, maybe. It doesn't, As we said last week, episode 2, the second part was always going to define whether the first part was any good as well, because it's all set up. And that didn't work. So I think it's a 6 out of 10 overall. And we will be discussing season 1 as a whole in our next podcast, probably our next podcast, somewhere fairly soon. We'll do a proper retrospective of the season, look at kind of, what just the season more generally, more broadly, with a bit of distance from it, what we feel about that season as a whole, where the different episodes rank, where this sits compared to other seasons, and just our general feelings on, I think, this new era of the show, because it is a new era as much as anything else. I know we have the 60th, but this feels like where it really started. So we will be discussing that in a future podcast. One last thing I just wanted to very briefly touch on before we left is the Tales of the TARDIS episode, Pyramids of Mars, that we got on Thursday last week. Charlie, I think we had a total of about 2 minutes, maybe 2 minutes 15, that was actually the Shooty and Millie scenes, which quite hilariously, in retrospect, you have Mel just sleeping in the background of all those scenes, which I think is quite funny. What did you think of those scenes, the edit generally? Was it worth a watch?
Not really. No, I think as an edit, I think if you're a new viewer who wants to know who Sutek is, it's all right, because it does.
Yeah, which is the purpose of that ultimately, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you want to watch Pyramids of Mars, just watch Pyramids of Mars, because it's like 25 minutes longer, and it's got way more character moments between Thor and Sarah that were just cut from the Tales of the TARDIS. So I think it served its function okay, but as like diehard Doctor Who fans who know who Sutek is, it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
I do question the tactic, though, because Russell's been trying to get international audiences. That's his main big push. And it's on Disney Plus and everything.
Yeah.
And then he puts Who is Sutek on Tales of the TARDIS, which you can only get in the UK, which is
it's an odd decision.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It wasn't like a bad edit necessarily, but just I'm like, no one is ever going to watch that again.
Yeah. I think that's it. Ryan, are you ever going to watch that again?
Not really. As I said, I feel like the 2 minutes of the Doctor and Ruby, did it feel like a deleted scene from Empire of Death that they kind of put at the beginning? Or, I don't know, some of it felt like this would have been a scene that was cut out from Empire of Death or rearranged to fit for Tales of the TARDIS.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, because it sort of really did feel like that. But yeah, the edit is not bad. It's definitely better than Daleks in colour, but it's not like the perfect editing job. Some of the new effects are good, and I could definitely tell that they used the scenes of the new effects for the screens in Empire of Death. I could definitely tell.
That's where they got the money to be able to do that. It's because they were going to use that shot in the main episode. That's why they did it.
Yeah, and it's definitely not bad. I'm just a bit curious if whenever we do get the eventual season 13 Blu-ray box set, whenever they do new effects for that, if they're going to stay true to this or if they're going to do new effects of their own.
Well, I feel like they'll just take this omnibus version and chuck it on that disc, to be honest. I don't think they'll do a new version with special effects now. They've got that, so might as well use it. I feel like it kind of makes the most sense, I guess. I don't know. Bill, what did you feel about this quick little edit?
I thought it was fine. I mean, to be honest, it's just another excuse to watch Pyramids of Mars again, isn't it? Really, so
it's true.
We're never going to say no to that, are we? So,
I
think that's fine. I think as we're both saying, it's kind of just it's there for new fans really who didn't know who Sutek was beforehand. So, in that respect, I think it does a pretty good job. But other than that, it's literally 2 minutes worth of new scenes, and it's a few more special effects, a bit more music, and just slightly trimmed down. I mean, it's certainly a much better job than the Daleks in colour, even though I think that it was edited by the same guy who did it.
Yes.
I think because it was a 4-parter rather than a 7-parter, there's naturally it's just going to fit a much better.
Definitely.
It's going to fit a lot better with the 75-minute runtime. And even if we had to sacrifice some of the nice character moments between Thor and Sarah, I feel like on the whole, it did its job of just getting across the main plot elements of Sutek's first story. And I think that's what it was there to do. That's fine. And if nothing else, we've got a 4th Doctor Tales of the TARDIS story now. And there we go.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Although I did think it was a little bit jarring when there was a bit of music from Logopolis in this story. Yeah, I don't know whether you guys picked on that. I was like, this doesn't really fit the Dudley Simpson vibe. I'm not going to lie. And it's just too iconic a piece of music to put in a random scene in Pyramids of Mars. I think that's the problem with it.
Yeah.
So, but again, as you say, it's for the new fans who wouldn't recognize that bit of music. They just go, "Oh, it's a bit of funky synthy music. Okay, that's cool." So yeah, as you say, it was good, but I like the actual scenes with the Doctor and Ruby don't really contribute anything. Like compared to the scenes from the Tales of the TARDIS ones we got before that are proper like 10-minute scenes that really, give a nice bit of character moments and stuff. There's not really any of that in this 2-minute scene. It's pretty rapid. So I don't feel like I'm going to go back to watch it for that. And I'm also not going to go back to watch it for the edit. The effects are cool, but I didn't mind the original effects. So I don't really see a reason I'm ever going to go back and watch it again. But, as you say, it's for the new fans. And that is a good thing. You can't deny you've got to try and make it accessible. When you're going to introduce Sutekh on BBC One, you've got to try and make it accessible in some way to those fans. Which was good to see. So I think that just about brings an end to this podcast. It's been an interesting podcast for our 50th, I think it's fair to say, and not a wholly positive one. And you'll have to join us next time around to see whether we feel more wholly positive about season 1 as a whole and where the show is or not. I don't know. We'll see where everybody sits on that. Hopefully we'll all be a bit more refreshed from the negativity of this episode to bring some more positive vibes, I'm sure. But yeah, that's just about it from this podcast, guys. Remember to check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube, my channel EMS Productions, and we're on Twitter /X @KerVAM Pod. But that's just about it for this edition of the pod. So from me, from Bill, from Charlie, and from Ryan, it is goodbye for now.